Hi there, values trainers. This message is going to be just a bit longer than the others because the topic is really important. Today we're going to talk about anxiety and managing anxiety in yourself and in the people that you help. But first I want to give a shout out to the Values Coach team at Tri-County Healthcare in Wadena, Minnesota. In their first full year of working on culture of ownership and values training, employee engagement scores increased by 50%, and they have sustained a consistent 10% increase in patient satisfaction. Pretty amazing. So let's talk about anxiety. I was at a grocery store recently and picked this up, a special Time magazine on the age of anxiety. And I will point out to you that this came out before the COVID-19 crisis. We were already dealing with and struggling with anxiety, and then coronavirus hits. Everybody I talk to, and I'm sure you're experiencing the same thing, one way or another is feeling anxiety. We're anxious for our health, for our families, for our jobs. We're worried about our futures, about the future of our country, of our world. And we really need to deal with that effectively. And I want to remind you some of the things that we covered in core action value number 4 when we talked about courage. Remember, I talked about the difference between anxiety, fear, and worry, and how important it is to recognize what emotional state you're in. Anxiety is a generalized, non-specific sense of dread. It's like the black cloud out there on the horizon. It's like the other shoe about to drop. You feel like this sense of inner angst, but you're not sure what is causing it. It's just the other shoe. It's non-specific. Fear, on the other hand, is specific. You are afraid of something. If anxiety is the black cloud on the horizon, fear is the raging storm. You can hear it, you can feel it. Worry, like fear, is specific. You're worried about something, but like anxiety, it's out there in the future. It's projecting the fears of today out into the future of tomorrow. And why that is so important is because you'll react to anxiety in a different way than fear or worry. And anxiety, as I'll point out, tries to become fear. So what happens when you're in a state of high anxiety at a cognitive level? 3 bad things happen. 1, your memories get distorted. When you're in a state of high anxiety, all of your past failures seem really big, certain to be repeated. All your past successes seem minimal, a matter of luck. Your current perception is distorted. When you're in a state of high anxiety, the dangers seem much bigger than they really are. Your resources, your strengths, the things you have going for you seem much smaller than they really are. And your future vision gets warped. When you're in a state of high anxiety, for example, that occurs after having lost a job, it's much easier to see yourself and your poor family under a bridge, warming your hands on a trash can fire, than to visualize that best thing that ever could have happened outcome. Because your mind is not thinking straight. Because anxiety is one of the most painful human emotions, because there's really not something you can do about it. It's not specific. You're not sure why that other shoe is up there. At a cognitive level, it tries to become fear. Why? Because fear gives you the illusion of control. You're afraid of something. And I guarantee the higher your state of anxiety, the more you're going to look around and find something to be afraid of. And here's the problem with that. In this book, a very appropriate book for today, The End of Epidemics, written 2 years ago by Dr. Jonathan Quick, one of the world's leading authorities on the subject. And he writes about fear. And here's what he says: we simply cannot think straight when we're fearful. We overreact. Never had that happen. The Stone Age part of our brain, the amygdala, initiates a fear response, the fight or flight thing, and overrides the more rational frontal cortex. Fear trumps intellect. In other words, as we said when we were doing the course, fear can make you stupid. So how do you deal with anxiety? How do you deal with fear and worry? Remember in the course, one of the challenges I gave you, one of the suggestions was give fear a name and it becomes just a problem. It's easier to solve a problem than it is to conquer fear. If you're in a state of high anxiety, focus on what the problem is. You're worried about your health? Wear a face mask. Wash your hands. Get compulsive about not touching your face. I'm still working on that one. You're worried about your job? Do a better job. Do more networking. Look at your finances. Figure out, how can I save more? How can I spend less? What is the problem you're working on? Essentially, what you're doing is you're moving your cognitive center from the emotional right brain to the logical left brain. And one side of the brain is usually going to be dominant in your thinking, and there are times to be emotional, but right now you want to be logical, rational, work on the problem, keep the emotions under control, and do that as a starting point to helping other people do the same thing. You know, we got this age of anxiety thing going. This is not a productive thing for us to be in. Anything you can do to manage your own anxiety, to help your family, your kids, your spouse, your parents manage their anxiety, it's going to help us deal with this COVID-19 crisis more effectively and come out on the other end, as Winston Churchill said, not having wasted a crisis.